Hey there, welcome back to Tim Talks Cooking. Today we are talking keto fathead pork pie turnovers. Yes sir, I am talking keto fathead pork pie turnovers. You're going to love this recipe. And before we get started, I want to thank the Ketofied sisters, who I met on Twitter a little while ago and who are the authors of the recipe I'm about to use, which contains some ingredients that we don't find in most fathead dough recipes. So, you know what? I'm really excited to get started here, so let's go. For the filling, here are the ingredients you'll need. You want 8 ounces of shredded pork. You could also use ground pork that you've browned a little bit until it's not pink anymore. That'd be great in this recipe too. I think it's actually more traditional. I'm going to use a cup of pork stock. You can use any stock that you have on hand. Chicken stock, veg stock. You can probably use beef stock. It'd probably be delicious. You're also going to want half a bag or 6 ounces of thawed frozen cauliflower. So easy to deal with frozen cauliflower rather than having to wash and cut up and make a mess of a cauliflower for once. Here, frozen is just fine, and it's a little cheaper. You're also going to want half a stalk of celery. We're going to cut that into a small dice. A carrot, a very small carrot here that we're going to cut into a small dice. Half an onion, small dice again, and a big old fat clove of garlic that we're going to mince up very nicely. We're also going to need a little bit of cloves. Some ground cloves, that is. Some ground cinnamon, kosher salt, freshly ground black pepper, and now we're ready to make this beautiful filling. My skillet's been heating up over medium-high heat for about 3 minutes now, and I put in about a tablespoon or 2 of ghee, which is starting to brown. We better get our vegetables in there. There we go, with our carrots, celery, and the onion, which I've diced up pretty finely, as you can see. The ghee is going to give that a really lovely toasty flavor. I'm going to turn my heat down to medium so I don't burn everything, of course. You can see that's off to a really good start. Like I said, you could use really any fat that you like. Olive oil, butter. You could use bacon grease if you liked, actually. Toss that around in the skillet a little bit. I want to wait until the onions are translucent before we go to the next step. It's been about 2 to 3 minutes now, and you can see my onions are translucent. So now I'm going to add in the rest of the vegetables. So in goes our garlic. We'll give that a little bit of a stir, and our cauliflower, which is already cooked. I'm going to give that a stir until I can smell the garlic, which is very early on. Here we go. You can smell it now. Let's add some seasonings. Here I've got about 1/8 of a teaspoon, or a little tiny pinch, maybe a little less of that, of the ground cloves, 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, some salt, of course, a little freshly ground black pepper. Oh, that really smells great. The cloves and cinnamon, not very much here. Again, we don't want it to take over, but you know, it's really going to add a lovely background to the pork here. You can see actually these spices are pretty typical of early Renaissance dishes of the 16th century, I believe. Oh yeah, that just smells just marvelous. Now, next is our shredded pork. You get it on in there. Oh, you know, I might add the cauliflower. I did actually chop the cauliflower up into smaller pieces than it originally was in. I know my pork's in chunks here. That's going to actually relax as it heats up. And I'm going to continue cooking this until we've warmed it through. Now everything's warmed up, as you can see. Those big pieces have kind of broken themselves down here. Now we're going to add in our stock. Now my stock is a beautiful bone broth that I made not too long ago. Actually, it's the bone broth from the pork shoulder that I cooked. That I got the pork shoulder for this from. There's a video using that very same pork shoulder. Now, here, you know, we've got our carrots and onions and celery in here. We need those to soften up. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil, turn the heat up to medium-high, bring it up to a boil, and simmer it for about 10 minutes until the liquid has reduced by about half. And here it's reduced by about half, as you can see. And, you know, to put these in in a pastry, well, we're not really going to use pastry. We're going to use a fathead dough that I'm going to show you how to make in just a moment. I'm going to continue to let this reduce until there's almost no liquid in the bottom of the pan. Here are the ingredients. Starts off with 2 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese, 3 ounces of full-fat cream cheese. You're going to need a cup of sifted almond flour. This is unblanched almond flour. If you see it's got lumps in it like this, you're going to want to pass it through a
Let's get to our
sifter of some
fathead crust
kind.
now.
I'll do that before I mix it with the other ingredients. You're also going to need a tablespoon of coconut flour, a tablespoon of flaxseed meal. That's ground flax seeds. If you've got whole ones, just put them in your blender and give them a whoosh until they're a powder, or put them in a coffee grinder. Also a teaspoon of yeast. This isn't going to help our dough rise. It's going to flavor it. It's going to absolutely be delicious. Here we've got a teaspoon of baking powder. You're also going to need a large egg. So let me show you how to mix this together. What I've done here is combine all of the ingredients, with the exception of the egg, which we're going to reserve for a little later, in a big bowl. And you can see the cream cheese I've broken up into big chunks. And I'm just going to combine them with my fingers like this. We just want to kind of get a nice mix going here. This is going to be a lot easier to combine once we put it through the microwave, now that we've got it all sort of mixed together like this right now. Our next step is to put it into the microwave oven on high for 2 minutes total in 30-second bursts each. I'm just going to set my timer for 30 seconds each time and stir it every 30 seconds. Here's what it looks like when it comes out of the microwave after 2 minutes. And we're just going to stir it up nicely. You can see it's steamy and hot. Cheese is going to continue to melt while we work with it. Now, it's important that we work fairly quickly here. I'm not lightning fast or anything, but our ability to roll this dough out and to work with it depends on it being elastic and kind of warm. If while you're working with it, it loses its elasticity, you want to stick it back in the microwave for 15 to 20 seconds. I've got my egg here. I'm going to add. Just going to add it right on in there. And you can see it doesn't scramble or anything. You're fine. Just get it in there and stir it in. This part is a little tedious. And every time I make a fathead dough, I think, oh, that egg is never going to combine. What am I going to do? And then it does, and it's fine. I'm going to continue stirring this, though, for about another. And here we go. Really not as much trouble as you think at first. When you start stirring it, you want to make sure it's a pretty nice homogeneous mixture, that there are no big lumps of cheese anywhere. If there are, again, stick it in the microwave for a few seconds. And just keep stirring it until you get it to a nice, smooth consistency. And there we go. I find it's easiest to work with this dough when you use parchment paper to roll it out with. And so I've got 2 sheets of parchment paper, and I'm going to take my fathead dough while it's still nice and warm. Get all of it out of the bowl. Some of it sticks to the sides a little bit. That's good. Get it all on there. I've got it in a nice rectangular shape. I'm going to cover it with the second piece of parchment paper. Give it a pat. Take my rolling pin. I'm actually going to turn it a little bit easier for me to do it from over here, at first anyway. We're just going to roll it out. This is going to make a nice big rectangle, about the size of a pizza. I'm using a rectangular shape because, as you know, turnovers are generally triangular, and it's going to be easiest to shape and fill the turnovers if we start off with what is more or less a rectangle. Now, you've seen my videos before, and you know that I'm not necessarily very exact about this sort of thing. I'm not going to do that here. I'm not going to do a Martha Stewart and get a ruler out and cut it exactly and throw away the rest of it. These are going to be a little bit rustic, which I think is great. Well, all right, now I've got it rolled out, and I'm going to pull the top sheet of parchment off, and here's what we've got. And now basically this is kind of a planning issue. I'm going to draw a line with the dull edge of my butter knife down the middle, just to give me kind of an idea of where the middle is, because we're going to flip this over. We're going to fill this side, flip this over, and seal it, okay? I want to make some nice triangular shaped turnovers, and so I'm going to divide this into 3 sections, more or less evenly, and then divide them into triangular shapes. Next, I'm going to take the cold pork pie filling and I'm going to place it in each. Okay, now for the next step, you can see what I'm going to do here is simply fold this over right on top of that. We're going to pull it back, and I want to make sure, pull the parchment back of course, make sure that the edges are covered. You may have noticed when I did this I left an edge around each triangular shape, and here I'm just going to use my finger to begin to seal these. We're going to use a fork in a minute to do this more precisely. If you notice it sticking to your fingers a little bit, you might want to use a spatula. That's what I'm going to do here. And notice I'm just pushing it down. I'm not really cutting it off quite yet. And I had to feel around a little bit. That's why this one has a little mark in it. That's all right. That will disappear when we cut them apart. Okay? Any cracks, we can just sort of smooth over with our fingers. See how easy that is? They just disappear. These are going to go into a 425-degree oven. But before I put them in there, I want to make sure I seal the edges with the tines of a fork like this. You can see I've done that to all of these. There we go. And they're going to go in for 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to check them after 10 minutes. We want them to be nice and browned. And 17 minutes later, here's what we've got. Look at these gorgeous beasts, man. They are just excellent. Let's serve one of them up. Nice and browned on the edges. You can see it's going to slide right off that parchment paper. That's really going to make your life easy if you're making these. A little bigger than my plate, but not bad, right? I think it's time to give this bad boy a taste. Well, all right, let's check it out. Really looks nice. Cut a little piece off in the middle here and see how we do. Oh yeah, that looks really good. Maybe half of that. That right there is some good pork pie, let me tell you what. And you know what? The edge, that little brown edge there, has a nice little crunch to it. Nice little nutty flavor. And yeah! For me, that's going to work for a replacement for pork pie. Or for like your Hot Pocket style food. Anyway, really, really nice. You really got to try this fathead dough. Thank you again, Ketofied sisters. Listen, before you go, please don't forget to comment, share, like, and especially subscribe to this channel. It helps me grow, and it also helps you find my videos more easily. You know what? If you click on the bell symbol there, you can get notifications whenever I upload a new one. Anyway, thanks for watching us here today on Tim Talks Cooking. We'll catch you next time.